Hey guys, Prowl 1701 here. Today we're going to be reviewing the Keys of Marinus. I really enjoyed this story. As I've been mentioning in every review I've done for each part of the story, I like that each episode has kind of been its own thing for the most part. The first episode was setting everything up. Then we had the second episode in the city with illusions. The third episode, the screaming jungle. And then we had the one in the snow with the ice. That was cool. And the trapper. And then we had the whodunit. And then we have this last episode, which the first half of it connects back to the fifth episode and kind of wraps up the whodunit and how. And then the last half of it circles back around to the first episode, and we see how everything the first episode set up resolves. And I like that. It does a good job of having to resolve basically 2 episodes in its limited time, and it does it pretty well. I suspected that the wife of the guard was involved when she was mentioned talking to Susan on the phone. I caught on to that when it happened. I was like, you let that slip, that's going to bite you in the butt. And sure enough, Barbara figured it out. And then when they left, she was like, I was like, I knew it. Now, I'm sure most adults would catch that. I have to remind myself this is season 1 of original Doctor Who, which is very geared toward children. So it does have that more simplistic style plot. So I'm sure most people who watch it grown caught on to that too. I don't think I'm special or anything. At least in that regard, in that instance. And then seeing them get exposed, I still recognize the guy who played the prosecutor for something, and I can't place it. It's probably another Doctor Who episode, but I know him from something, and I can't figure out what it is, and it's driving me crazy. And then when they get back, we already know that the guy who sent them on the mission got killed at the end of part 1. We saw that, or at least we assume he was killed, which turns out he was killed. The scene when Ian's not quite sure that's him because the guy refuses to show his face, again, that's, come on, Ian, you're not that dumb. Which Ian wasn't, that's why he gave him the fake key. But the fact that he even played along with it, again, geared more towards children here. As an adult, you're kind of like, come on, Ian. That still resolves well, though. I like all of the cast, the guest cast and the main cast. I like when the doctor runs into him and he's like, well, you're running around like a scared chicken. Come on, come with me, come on. I enjoy that little scene. Hartnell's really on fire here. He must have enjoyed his break because he wasn't in episodes 3 and 4. But it's done in a way that makes sense to the story because he split up with the rest of the group to jump ahead to try to find the other key, the last key, while they were locating the other 2. So it actually makes sense in the story why he's not in 2 episodes. Unlike, say, the 10th Planet, where it's very obvious he's not there when he should be. So I like how they do that here. Each of the stories were really good. I like the way it wraps up with the one guy putting the wrong key in and kind of causing everything to blow up, and then the doctor having the final, and the companions having the final talk with the girl and the guy. I'd wondered for a second if the guy was going to betray him, but no, he turned out to be a good egg. And him and the other girl end up together. That's nice. I like that. I enjoy their little final words as the TARDIS team leave. Now, the shot of the TARDIS dematerializing is obviously a model, but I love the way the camera pans out to show the island again after it dematerializes, that little pan out shot when it ends. That's a pretty cool little shot. I really liked that. So I enjoyed this story a lot. As a lot of people have told me before, it really is kind of a miniature version of the Key to Time, whereas each episode is kind of its own thing with just an overall plot connecting it. Now, the last episode does tie back into episode 5 and episode 1, but before that, each episode really was its own thing. You had the first episode doing its thing with them finding their way into the city and finding out the sea was acid. Then you have the second episode in that city of illusions where Barbara figured out everything wasn't the way it appeared, and you had the slug brain things. And then the screaming jungle when the jungle kept trying to get into them. And then episode 4 was in a totally different place with the ice and the snow and the trapper you couldn't trust. And I love the set design of that episode. The set design in this story overall I thought was pretty good, but I really loved the set design in episode 4 with the ice walls and everything. Was really, really good. I really enjoyed that. And then episode 5 was a whodunit. I mean, Ian, of course, is accused of murder because he happened to be at the wrong place in the wrong time. And I really love seeing Hartnell back. He looked well rested in episode 5, and now I'll be your defender. I'll handle this, my boy. And the Doctor being clever. I love the Doctor in this story because he always feels in control of the situation, especially in episode 5. He never feels on the back foot. He always feels like the Doctor should, commanding the room. Even if he's not quite 100% sure what's going on, and in this case he was, the Doctor always shows that he's commanding the room. And Hartnell just gives a great performance in episode 5, and in the story as a whole, but in episode 5. And I really like episode 6 as well, how it not only neatly wraps up episode 5, but circles back around and neatly wraps up episode 1. So yeah, I really enjoyed Keys of Marinus. Definitely one of my favorite Hartnell stories, I think. I'm looking forward to whenever I rank them after I've seen some more of them. But it's really, really good. I can see why it has the good reputation it has. It's interesting, too, because I watched this one over the span of a week and a half, 2 weeks, a week. I'm not sure. I think it was like 2 weeks or close to it, a week and a half. But because each episode is kind of its own thing, that was fine. I didn't feel like I was just getting a little bite of the story each time. Each episode kind of felt like its own little mini episode. So I was able to space Keys of Marinus out, because while I was going through Keys of Marinus, my season 22 box set came in, so I've also been watching season 22. Matter of fact, I've watched all of season 22 except Mark of the Rani at this point. So as I've been watching Keys of Marinus, I've been watching, 5 other stories from the 6th Doctor. But since Keys of Marinus, again, each story is kind of its own thing, it didn't feel problematic to be watching 6th Doctor stuff as I'm going through it. And I really enjoyed that. I really, really liked that. And I like that Doctor Who was doing that even in its first season. That's really cool. So, the Keys of Marinus, what do you think of it? I would like to know what you think. So comment down below and let me know. I always enjoy hearing from you guys. So, let me know other things to do. I also have a Patreon if you would like to support me on that. There's a link to that down in the description below. And I have actually updated my Patreon recently. I've changed a couple things on the tiers. I've added some things on the tiers. I've added a couple extra tiers. Like I added a John Pertwee tier, which is like in between the $5 tier and the $10 tier, the Colin Baker tier and the William Hartnell tier. So there's one in the middle now. It's like a $7.50 tier that's appropriately placed in the middle. And then I added like one special limited edition tier. I think it's only got like 2 slots. It's a more expensive tier than my top tier, but it's got a few other little bonus perks as well. It's actually just called the Dr. Dr. Who tier, which has Peter Cushing on it. It's kind of the Peter Cushing tier, since he only had 2 movies, and this one only has 2 slots. So only 2 people could get that before it locks out. But I did add some things to them to kind of make them more rewarding. So if you haven't checked out my Patreon in a while, if you want to go ahead and give that a look, check out the updates, see if that's something that might interest you. I certainly appreciate you just taking a minute to look at it. I want to give a shout out to 2 of my top tier patrons, Stephen Crane and the 5th Doctor. I appreciate their continued support and the support of all of my patrons who've been with me. I also have a P.O. box if there's anything you would like to send me, as well as a link to my Amazon wish list down in the description as well. Most importantly, though, thank you for watching.